And think about it, our urban planning is still the same as 400 years ago. That was the laws of the Indies introduced by King Philip of Spain to all colonies of Spain. This is not that in Spain, Spanish cities, they had the town plaza, but it was more inclusive. The Plaza Mayor, surrounded by all income classes, but were the laws of the Indies, zoning by segregation. And by design, we are zoning by segregation. Exclude the poor, exclude the marginalized. So the nice, beautiful town plaza, it's good, but there are also downsides to it. Growth of Metro Manila, 1948, 1970, 2010, and 2020. I made a paper in Harvard, a term paper about Manila Megalopolis 2020. Even without planning from government, we'll have 20 million people in Megalopolis, Metro Manila, expanding to Calabarzon and Central Luzon, including Clark and Subic. And private sector, it's more towards the south. But government-led and private sector, because of Clark and Subic, is going northward. And 20 million people, I think that's a little less than the population of Australia and Canada today. In this limited, there are a lot of opportunities, but a lot of challenges also. And I propose creating sub-centers, satellite cities, as counter-magnets to the primacy of Metro Manila. A Harvard study in 2000 also, a graduate school designer of Harvard, Metro Manila was identified as the fastest growing metropolis in the world. 60 persons per hour, due mainly to in-migration. New Delhi is only 47 persons per hour. If I remember it right, London, Paris, New York, 5 persons per hour. And Moscow, negative 2 persons per hour. So this was a Harvard study in year 2000. And you can see here, nice pictures, nice postcards, but a photo essay of the informal settlers, informal sector of our society in the Philippines. They are not really beneficiaries of the fruits of development. Billboards, uglifying our city. When I was an urban planner in Dubai, there was a visual pollution fee. If you have a billboard, you pay every square inch because you're practically uglifying the city. So if only the political billboards, we charge them per square inch for uglifying the public realm. Pasig River, it used to be a very nice river. EDSA corridor, the American Corps of Engineers, before they left, 1945, they planned Metro Manila with like half a wheel, spokes of the wheel, radial roads, and ring roads, circumferential roads. And EDSA is circumferential road number 4, built in 1954, about 54 meters wide. And what happened there, it's not how to plan a city. You have 13 LRT stations surrounded by low-density gated communities and gated military camps. Elsewhere in the world, like Singapore, London, Paris, New York, Hong Kong, when you have a transit station, you do higher density development, so you have more people within walking distance. But the stations are segregated away from the riders by the gated low-density communities and gated military camps. That's why yesterday I was invited by the military to speak about the development potential for the military camps, which I told them they are now the wrong land use at the wrong place at the wrong time. They may have been the best land use 60 years ago. And it even encourages coup attempts. They're too near the office of the president. So we go now to the main topic that I was asked to talk on, disaster preparedness, and why prepare. I had visitors from Japan, engineers, members of the earthquake engineers, and they shared with us their experience with the tsunami. Fault lines, we're in the Pacific Ring of Fire, you know this. We have about 10 natural hazards from La Nina, El Nino, flooding, tsunami, typhoon, storm surges, earthquakes, landslides, ground subsidence, and volcanic eruptions. We also have man-made hazards, land accidents, oil spill, fire incidents, sea accidents, red tide, air accidents, civil strife, pollution, industrial accidents, and terrorism. Ondoy, some of us have seen Ondoy flooding. Like this one here, this is a waterway. And Laguna Lake Development Authority asked those settlers who built on the waterway. And they were told that they are not squatters because they paid the mayor 15,000 pesos for development rights and the air rights of the waterway. I did not put the name of the city anymore, and I might get another libel case. These are flood graphs. In 1919, the flooding in Metro Manila was 2 meters higher than Ondoy, 2 meters higher than 2 years ago. In 1970, the same Ondoy, and 1970, the same floods. So when the former president declared that it was an act of God, I came out to the media in the interview with me, and I told them it was not an act of God, but a sin of omission of men and women in our country. So I was invited by Malacanang to explain my statement. Lessons from flooding. We may have to revisit the Daniel Burnham plan in 1905. The Americans hired Daniel Burnham to plan Manila and Baguio. Manila 1905, 1909 Chicago, and Baguio. And he's an American architect planner, but his prescription for planning of Philippine cities, especially Metro Manila, was design Manila like Paris, Pasig River, River Seine, design Manila like Venice, the canals of Venice, the esteros of Metro Manila, and like Italy, the Bay of Naples, Manila Bay. That was, and we followed that plan while the Americans were here. And wide boulevards, open spaces, you live upstairs, you shop downstairs. You can see the plan of Manila, very similar to Paris. Metro Plan, 76-77, I work with British consultants, Halcrow, of London and Hong Kong, and joint project with the government of the Philippines. And Metro Plan, Manila Metro Plan, we had put forward recommendations on this plan, which were never followed. One of them was the LRT, which partially followed, but they put heavy rail and a light rail. And we identified we planned 40 towns and cities up to Santa Rosa, Laguna, because even in 1976, we had employees of Makati living in Santa Rosa already. So that was a scientific way of defining the metropolis. But we were told that when Metro Manila was created, 40 towns and cities did not have a number 7. 7 was a magic number at that time. So they created only 17 towns and cities to create Metro Manila. And this map is very, very important. We told government that time that the shaded area will be liable to flooding. And this line here is the fault line. 70 kilometers long from Angat, Bulacan, cuts through the metropolis. This is EDSA, up to Laguna, Cavite, and Batangas. And unfortunately, both government and private sector did not follow this plan, except for some responsible developers. That's why when I was chief architect of Ayala, we're planning Ayala Heights, and Ayala Heights is here. I went to Philbox, and Philbox put a red line. The fault line is here. So we made it an open space, non-saleable, non-developable. Unfortunately, some developers, kabyat emptor, buyer beware. So some houses were built on top of the fault line. Only in the Philippines can you do that. And you can build safely 5 meters away from a fault line, but never, never on top of a fault line. Like the San Andreas fault line in California, everybody knows about it. Japan, they have the most number of tall buildings in the world, but they never build on top of a fault line. And if you want to see your properties, you go to Philbox, the maps are there. This is, they have larger scale maps. And also this line, so this is the fault line. And during Ondoy, there were about more than 4,000 cubic meters per second of floodwaters from the mountains flowing down the metropolis. But the capacity of Pasig River is only 600 cubic meters per second. So the almost 3,600 cubic meters per second, they flooded 80,000 hectares of urban land. 80,000 hectares. Maybe just to visualize what's 80,000 hectares. Singapore is 71,000 hectares. So the flooded area is larger than Singapore. So I went to government again, just address that flooding. spend 200 billion something to address it, and the land value appreciation will be 3.2 trillion pesos. So it's a no-brainer. You can do it in the back of an envelope. So I went to government several times with the foreign funding agencies and so on. But we made 23 recommendations. I did not bill government for that. But I think the recommendations are still suffering from analysis paralysis. Next slide. Yeah. So you can see here, what was not built was the Parañaque Spillway. There are about 21 rivers flowing into Laguna Lake. And Pasig River capacity is only 600 cubic meters, more than 4,000 cubic meters of water from the mountains. So they did the Mangaan floodway to, this was a twin project that was proposed. Mangaan floodway to protect Metro Manila. There were more floodwaters to Laguna Lake, but they did not do the spillway. So my description was, it's just like a toilet without a flush, or you have a bathtub with 22 faucets, there's no drain. So unfortunately, my comments was lost in translation in the Tagalog tabloids. I was quoted as saying, because I said, this is not a no-brainer analysis. I was quoted, lost in translation in the Tagalog tabloids, that Palafox said, government has no brains. I did not say that. I said, the analysis is no-brainer. So just look at the topography. We tried to do a perspective of the topography of Metro Manila. Elevation 0, Manila Bayfront. Then, as you come to Makati and the highlands of Quezon City, like Diliman, Ayala Heights, and so on, it goes about 30 meters high. Elevation 0, Manila Bay, to 30 meters high. Then it drops to the floor of Marikina Valley and the western shores of Laguna Lake. For about 6 kilometers long, it's a valley. Then it goes high to about 300 meters high to the Sierra Madre Mountains, 50 kilometers to the Pacific Ocean. So this is like a basin. So it's really a no-brainer analysis. It's really a basin. So 1970-77 Metro Plan, we gave that analysis and recommendation already to government. So 35 years, nothing happened. And we told them the center of Metro Manila, 70% of the drainage is obsolete. 70%, as of 77. And the design criteria of public works for our drainage and flood control is only good for 25 years. Elsewhere in the world, it's 100 years. In the Netherlands, it's 500 years. And you have 70%. That's why I'm saying if there's another Ondoy, big typhoon, it can be worse because the mud that went into the drainage system, until now, they're not yet cleaned out. Next slide. Yeah, so the flood map of 1970, flood map of Ondoy, practically the same footprint of flooding. What needs to be done? We may have to do serious urban planning. We may have to, these are the 23 recommendations we put forward to the former president. What's to be done for the 100 days from September 26? Then the rest of 2010, short term, medium term up to the end of this presidency, 2016, and by 2020. These recommendations are still being analyzed. 6 of our architects were also victims of the flooding. So the Monday after Ondoy, the morning, we had an informal design competition in our office. Just quick and dirty sketches. And this came especially from our younger architects. Adaptation. If you live in a place that's liable to flooding, maybe just do your electrical system. Just let your ground floor be flooded, you go higher. And then maybe have water cisterns for rainwater harvesting and so on. As the flood goes up, you go higher and higher. And this one, more expensive, you backfill. Go higher than 100-year flooding. This one, like Noah's Ark, you float your house. Or maybe your gazebo to survive 1 month until the government rescues you. These are images from, some of them from Singapore. Maybe you plant vegetables every floor of your house, so you survive until you get the rescue. This one, the same. Every floor you have roof gardens and green walls with vegetables until the helicopter rescues you. This one, crazy idea, jack up your house, hydraulic jack. And this one, another, a floating pad to float your house. This one, just like the